devotion from the Latin really means to be consecrated. And to be consecrated means to be set apart. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Benedictine Spirituality 101. I am Brother Francisco, and this is All Good in the Brotherhood. So today we're just going to look very briefly at a rather short chapter in the Rule of St. Benedict where he speaks about reverence in prayer. So we might, go to pray. We might know how to pray a bit, but sometimes maybe we get distracted or all these other things going on, and we don't have maybe the interiority to pray, or our disposition for prayer is not what it should be, or maybe we don't even know what our disposition ought to be. Well, Benedict, in these about 5 or 6 lines, shows us just how we can enter prayer with more reverence and what that reverence actually looks like. So he starts by saying, if we are asking a favor or we are asking something from one who has authority or power, we should do it with reverence and humility. And also without expecting that this person's going to do exactly what we want them to do for us. Well, he says, how much more should we do that with God? Approaching with humility, which is, as we've said before, recognizing who God is and who I am. That God has authority and power, and that I have very to little no power. And with reverence, God, you are so good, you are powerful, you are almighty, you can do anything you want. Yet you allow me to come and speak to you, to know you, to be with you. To not lose that understanding of who God is, even though we know he is close to us, he is always loving, and he is always ready to hear us. And not to expect whatever he will do, because he sees our future. Though it is foggy, or we might think we know what's going on, he truly sees what's going on. So Benedict says our prayer should be just like that. Humble and devoted. So humble, saying who I am, bringing who I am to the Father. But devoted. Now, what does that necessarily mean? What is devotion? Some people might think it means that you're, praying harder, or that you look like you're holy. But devotion from the Latin really means to be consecrated. And to be consecrated means to be set apart. So Benedict's saying our prayer should be set apart. Our prayer should be set apart from the rest of the things we do. It should be intentional. But also, who we are is set apart to God, that we speak to him in prayer and we converse with him and we know him in a different way from anyone else. That is what it means to pray with devotion, to set aside time for the Lord, not for me, that this is my time for God. No, this is my time to give to God, rather than this is my time to have him give me everything I need. This is my time to give to him. Because when we do that and we're devoted and humble, we present ourselves. And that's what prayer must be, is a purifying of all of those things we think we need. So instead, we just present who we are. And Benedict says God sees that purity of heart, that intention, more than he's going to see a rambling of words. And Jesus says the same thing. Don't babble like the pagans do when you pray, who think they'll be heard because they say a lot of things. Rather, go to the inner room and just be in quiet with God. So when we pray, reverence means acknowledging who I am, who God is, and bringing who I am, myself, to prayer. Rather than all these words, all these ideas, all these thoughts, give yourself. Because when we give ourselves, we enter into a relationship with God. And our prayer becomes that, the place of encounter. So that prayer isn't just then a thing where we dump all of what we want upon God. Rather, it's a place where we get to know him. And after a while, that's what all we'll want prayer to be. Because we know that in getting to know God, we will also receive the answer for everything that we need. And finally, Benedict says our prayer should be harmonious, a union and a unity of our minds, our mouths, and our hearts. So we could say the words of prayer. We could say what we're supposed to do. You can go to Mass and respond the right way. I could go to the office, the liturgy of the hours with my fellow monks and say the Psalms and pray them. But if I don't mean them in my heart, or I don't think about the words that I'm saying, well, they don't have the same impact or power. Rather, let the actions that follow after our prayer and let the disposition of the heart be united with what we're actually saying. Because if it's not, prayer will always be a rote and an annoying thing. If prayer is only ever repeating and saying and saying and saying, rather than turning and moving, then it will never have the impact on us, and we won't have the interiority that prayer can mean for our spiritual life. So next time you pray, ask yourself if you're reverent. Maybe you need a little bit more humility, a little bit more devotion, or to just truly present who you are to the Lord. For He, the Father who sees in secret, will repay you. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Benedictine Spirituality 101. I am Brother Francisco. This is All Good in the Brotherhood. I hope you have a wonderful and God-blessed day. Adios.